shows, I think, the very late persistence of these Paleolithic themes of shamanic power carried and transmitted through plants. If any of you have any other insight into this, why perhaps in the afternoon.
Glaucus may have been eaten a mushroom and gone into some kind of coma state where he appeared dead, and then the task was to revive him, so they found an herb that restores people who are apparently dead. In the Gilgamesh story, there's also an herb of immortality that the snake absconds with. And the snakes have always been especially credited with knowing the secret of regeneration because of their sloughing their skin and all that.
Well, you know, people in Mexico who go to Huatla and places like that and collect the mushroom, the on-the-road, old-style way of preserving the mushrooms was to put them in honey. And it turns into a totally black mess. It turns into the alchemical prima materia. It turns into the exudate of the grave. But if you have the courage to eat it, it is then reborn inside of you. And honey, the role of honey as well, any of you have read Levi-Strauss, Honey and Ashes, and The Raw and the Cooked, know that, this is a symbol of semen, of sunlight, of sweetness. I mean, it's a very rich kind of symbol. There are even, it's reputed, hallucinogenic honeys in the Amazon. This is a whole unexplored area where nobody has ever been able to walk into a laboratory and slam down a quart jar of hallucinogenic honey, but there are persistent reports filtering back from wild-eyed travelers.
Is it biblical also? Remember the microphone?
The metaphor of honey, the manas from heaven, yes.
Do you recommend preserving mushrooms in honey?
No, I don't recommend preserving mushrooms in honey if you have a good freeze dryer and modern refrigeration. But otherwise, you see, the honey draws the moisture out and it like candies it and crystallizes it and makes it impervious. Honey is highly antibiotic. Nothing rots that is immersed.
You have to eat all the honey? Terence, can
Yeah.
you make sure that they actually talk into the microphone?
Yes.
These questions?
Mr. Coffey is going to... You had a story to tell. No? Oh, I tailored myself to your needs, sir. Now I have nothing to say.
Come on, you can't back out. Yes, I can.
Yes, he can, as a matter of fact. Well,
It's not a story, but it's sort of a joke.
She has a joke.
a joke.
It's a deathbed joke. When I was deathing my father, a couple of days before he died, he told me a dream. He woke up and he said that he was sitting on the top of the peaks, and the elders came and gave him the beads, and they contained the secrets of the universe, and they went through the rosary of all the beads and showed him all the secrets of the universe. And he understood that he was going to die, and that he'd been given this gift before he died. And then they left him there, telling him that they would see him. And he looked down in the beads, and he couldn't remember any of the secrets of the universe.
Yes, well, there's something about dreams where meaning, puns, or some great truth is portrayed, but it can never be quite brought back. And it seems simple, silly, profound, but mostly difficult to remember. And a friend of mine, the closest to my mind that anybody ever came to capturing this, was a friend of mine told me about a dream he had that was very complex, and many, many things happened, but in the final scene there was a raft covered with Edwardian furniture and naked mermaids, and it was floating out to sea, and the mermaids were waving to my friend who stood on the beach, and the last thing he heard them call out to him was, "Deja vu! Deja vu!" He said, "This sounds like it means something." Well, anyone who wishes to say, I mean, you don't have to feel constrained. You have to feel constrained. No, I'm kidding.
The Vegan Buddhist says that snakes are the goddess. That any symbol of the snake that you see in archaic something or other. It's got it. Well, that's what
Well, too bad Maria Gimbutas can't mud wrestle Sigmund Freud. Sure, the caduceus.
I'd like to invite people also in terms of telling stories. Also, dreams, I think, would be, often do contain good stories. And you might search your memory, particularly for dreams. I mean, I have a personal interest. I think it kind of ties in with the theme of this weekend, and this theme of the wild man or the wild woman, the wild creature, the half animal, half human part of our own nature. If you ever had a dream about that seemed to be about such a being, this would be a very significant dream, very centrally related to what we're talking about here.
There was a book published very recently that I enjoy plugging because the guy is so perverse. And, he's a post-structuralist, Marxist, Jacques Derrida, labor organizer, rationalist type. But he wrote an amazing book about ayahuasca called Shamanism, Colonialism, and the Wild Man. And if you want to be plunged into the world of real shamanism as it is practiced today among very sophisticated people, I mean, this guy got it. His name is Michael Tausig, and you have to take off your hat to this guy because being an anthropologist at the University of Chicago and a Marxist, he took it over and over and over again, not sipping it. He actually, just got flattened with these people and talks about it and just throws out the gauntlet to orthodox anthropology. And he's no true believer. This is no Carlos Castaneda. This is somebody very few of us here would actually be comfortable with, because you can tell this guy is abrasive, thinks everybody else is a moron, thinks people who hear voices should see a psychiatrist, and yet you get the whole thing. It's all there. Shamanism, colonialism, and the wild man.
And the thing that I got from that book was that what he points out is that the people in the Amazon region, having experienced 250 years of savage colonial oppression, are returning to ayahuasca to heal themselves and to to retreat, as it were, to restore themselves and to heal themselves from the outrageous wounds and humiliations imposed on them by the colonial robber barons that run the rubber plantations down there, who regularly torture and massacre the Indians just for sport, and convert them to slavery, basically. And so the ayahuasca is healing and also reconnecting them with their original existence in the jungle, which is fits with his Marxist analysis of the major human cultural patterns being a reaction against economic oppression and so on. And the role of hallucinogens there there is other evidence for that in Africa, for example, where the tribe that uses the iboga root, from which ibogaine is derived, are the Fang people in the Congo area, and they themselves say in their visions and their descriptions of their journeys with it, which they say puts you in touch with your ancestors, and they acknowledge their own ancestors who went on these had to do these great migrations to get away from Muslim and Christian soldier armies and so forth, and credit and even another people, the pygmy people, who lived even further in the forest. So the Fang are village dwellers, and so they credit the Iboka and the use of the Iboka, having learned that from the pygmies, who showed them this is how you live in the forest, which is the earlier stratum, really the wild, even more wild than they were. I mean, from our point of view, they'd be wild, but this is even further, more nature, deep forest. So they learn from them how to reconnect with that living source in the deep forest and at the same time escape the depredations of the colonialist oppressors.
It's interesting, in the case of Iboka, there's no known reference to it before 1850. So this is like a use of a hallucinogen in a tribal context for which there is no evidence of great age at all.